and I love all of the above. That's Janet. We think so much alike.
There was a time when Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch felt like a dream come to life. It had roller coasters, animals, a movie theater, everything a kid could imagine.
I'm getting a roller coaster next to go over there.
But behind all the fun was something darker. As the years went by, the music faded, the joy disappeared, and the gates closed for good. Why did the king of pop build this place? And why did it end in silence and dust? Some say it was his escape. Others say it became his prison. Join us as we walk through Neverland Ranch and uncover why it's gone for good. The ranch before Michael Jackson. Before it became Neverland, the land had a very different life. In 1981, a man named William Bone, who worked in property development, bought the estate. Back then, it was called Zaca Ladera's Ranch. Bone wanted to turn it into something special. Not just any home, but a personal dream project. He renamed it Sycamore Valley Ranch and moved there with his family. He brought in an architect named Robert Altavers, and the two of them spent over 2 years planning and designing the property. Bone didn't hold back. He had been in home building for 15 years and said, "I achieved here all the things I wanted to do in my business but could not." You could tell he had poured his heart into it. By 1982, the main house was finished. 13,000 square foot mansion with formal gardens, a beautiful stone bridge, and a 4-acre lake with a 5-foot waterfall. Bone even thought about turning the ranch into a country club, but chose to keep it private. At that point, the estate was peaceful and elegant, but that would soon change in a big way. Because just a few years later, the most famous pop star in the world came looking for a new home. Michael Jackson moves in. In March 1988, Michael Jackson bought the estate from Bone. The exact price isn't fully clear. Some say around $19.5 million. Others claim it was closer to $30 million. To keep the purchase quiet, the property was first bought through a trust. Jackson's lawyer and accountant acted as trustees. But within a month, Michael canceled the trust and took full control of the estate. He renamed it Neverland Ranch, inspired by the magical island from Peter Pan, a place where no one grows old. Jackson wanted Neverland to feel like that, a world of fun, freedom, and escape. He turned it into much more than just a house.
But he's fun. He loves to have fun, just like me.
It became his own private amusement park. The ranch had statues, gardens, amusement rides, and even a petting zoo. It was built like a fantasy land, not just for him, but for children too. Before Neverland, Jackson had been living with his family at Havenhurst, but this new place was something completely different. He even set up 3 train systems. One was called the Neverland Valley Railroad, and its steam engine was named Catherine, after his mother. Another was a replica made by Chance Rides, and the third was a private electric train that he bought for his kids, Michael Jr., Paris, and Prince II. That train was made in Germany and set up right in his backyard. But there was a lot more than just that. A private theme park. Michael filled Neverland with rides you'd usually find at a fair. There was a Ferris wheel, carousel, zipper, octopus, pirate ship, roller coaster, super slide, wave swinger, bumper cars, and even an arcade. If a child could dream it, Michael probably had it at Neverland. And while most of us only heard about the place through stories, some people got to see it in person. In 1991, Michael's friend Elizabeth Taylor actually got married there to Larry Fortensky. The wedding took place right on the ranch. Then, in 1993, Michael did a famous live interview with Oprah Winfrey from Neverland. Millions of people watched it on TV. It gave the public a rare look at his private world. Neverland was magical to many, and Michael wanted it to be a place of joy and healing. In 1995, Jackson and Lisa Marie Presley hosted a big event at the ranch called the World Children's Congress. Kids from around the world came for 3 days of workshops and seminars. It was part of the 50th anniversary of the United Nations, and it showed how much Michael cared about children's issues. But not everything about Neverland would stay magical. In time, it became the center of something far more serious and painful. The trial that changed everything. On November 18, 2003, police showed up at Neverland Ranch with a search warrant. This was tied to what became the People v. Jackson trial, which was a huge criminal case that made headlines everywhere. In the 2005 trial, Jackson was charged with multiple counts of child molestation involving Gavin Arvizo, who was just 13 years old at the time. The events were said to have taken place right there at Neverland. Gavin and his brother claimed Michael had given them alcohol, shown them inappropriate materials, and made physical advances. The trial itself lasted 4 months. It was held in Santa Barbara County Superior Court. Jackson faced very serious charges, including molestation, intoxicating a minor, attempted molestation, and even conspiracy, including claims of holding the Arvizo family captive, extortion, and abduction. The trial drew huge media attention. Reporters camped outside the courtroom. Every move was watched closely, and the whole world seemed to have an opinion. Many media outlets painted Jackson as guilty even before the trial was over. But Michael denied all charges. His defense team said the accusers were trying to take advantage of him for money. They also brought in well-known celebrities like Macaulay Culkin and Chris Tucker, who spoke in support of Jackson. In the end, Michael Jackson was found not guilty on all counts. And that was when something had changed forever. Jackson later said he would never return to Neverland Ranch. It no longer felt like home. The place that once meant happiness and peace had become a symbol of pain and public judgment. His sister, LaToya Jackson, wrote in her book Starting Over that she stayed at the ranch during the trial, and the experience was deeply emotional. After the trial, the main house was shut down to save money. Michael moved out and went to Bahrain, where he stayed with Sheikh Abdullah, the son of Bahrain's ruler. He tried to move on, but Neverland was never the same. And even though the charges were cleared, the ranch's name had become tied to scandal. For many, it was no longer just a magical playground. It had become part of a story the world couldn't forget. But what happened next would lead to Neverland's final permanent closure. When money troubles hit Neverland. By 2007, Michael Jackson was struggling with money. That same year, reports came out that Neverland Ranch might be going into foreclosure. People were shocked. The magical home he had built was now in danger. But Jackson's spokesperson tried to calm things down. They said it wasn't a foreclosure. It was just a loan being refinanced. At that point, Jackson still owned 87.5% of the ranch, which meant he was still in control. Then, in February 2008, things became serious. Jackson received a warning from the financial title company. It said that unless he paid $24.5 million by March 19th, the entire ranch would be sold at a public auction. This included the buildings, land, rides, trains, and even his art. On March 13th, Jackson's lawyer L. Lundell McMillan announced that a private deal had been made. The deal was with Fortress Investment Group, and it would help Jackson keep his ranch. However, Jackson had already missed 3 months of payments on the property. McMillan didn't reveal much else about the agreement. But the pressure didn't go away. Just 2 months later, on May 12, 2008, another auction was planned. This time, a company called Colony Capital, led by billionaire Tom Barrack, stepped in and bought the defaulted loan. They paid $22.5 million to save the ranch from auction. Jackson shared his feelings in a statement, saying, "I am pleased with recent developments involving Neverland Ranch, and I am in discussions with Colony and Tom Barrack with regard to the ranch and other matters that would allow me to focus on the future." But those discussions would lead to even bigger changes at Neverland. Neverland changes hands. In November 2008, Michael Jackson transferred the title of Neverland Ranch to a new company, Sycamore Valley Ranch Company, LLC. This company was a joint venture between Jackson and Colony Capital. He still had a stake in it, but now Colony was in charge. Right after that, neighbors started to notice things changing. Amusement rides were seen being moved out by trucks on the highway. It was clear that the ranch was no longer going to be the same. The property that once had music, laughter, and kids playing was now going quiet. According to the Santa Barbara County Assessor's Office, Jackson sold part of his rights to the ranch for $35 million. But other reports say Colony only invested $22.5 million. Either way, Colony was now the majority owner. Colony's project manager, Kyle Forsyth, gave a new description of the ranch. He called it English Country Manor meets Kenya. It was a way of saying that the buildings looked like something from the countryside, while the grasslands looked like something out of Africa. But Colony had no plans to split the land. Forsyth said subdividing it would destroy it. Meanwhile, the rides were being sold off to different places. Some went to Helm and Sons Amusements, who had also supplied rides to Jackson in the past. Others were bought by Butler Amusements, based in California. These rides didn't disappear forever. They started popping up at county and state fairs across California, Oregon, and Washington. Some even had signs saying they once belonged to Neverland. The Ferris wheel, which was made specially for Jackson in 1990, was bought for $215,000. Other rides found new homes, too. The Dragon Wagon roller coaster ended up at Coney Island in New York City. The Sea Dragon ship ride was taken to Beach Bend Park in Kentucky. Even the bumper cars were set up at the California State Fairgrounds. One man, British billionaire Joe Bamford, tried to buy the ranch in 2013, but the deal never went through. And then, everything changed with Michael Jackson's passing. After Michael's death. In June 2009, the world lost Michael Jackson. And almost immediately, people began to talk about Neverland Ranch again. Reports came out saying that his family wanted to bury him at the ranch. Some even believed it could become a place like Graceland, where fans visit to remember Elvis Presley. But Jackson's father, Joseph Jackson, said that wasn't true. No such plans were being made. Still, on July 1st, heavy construction equipment and gardeners were seen entering the ranch. People started guessing that something big was happening. Local officials then stepped in. They said if Jackson's family wanted to bury him there, they would need special permits from the county and state government. The process would not be easy. According to Jackson's 2002 will, his entire estate was given to a family trust. That meant the ranch's future would be handled by that trust, not just his family. On July 2nd, the ranch was back on TV. Jermaine Jackson, Michael's brother, gave a tour of the main house to Matt Lauer from The Today Show. He was also interviewed by Larry King on the same day. In 2013, singer Lady Gaga even said she wanted to help Jackson's kids keep the ranch. She planned to invest in the property, but no deal came from it. By then, Neverland had already lost most of what made it magical. A new name, a new future. By 2009, the amusement rides and animals at Neverland were all gone, except for the llamas. The fun had been replaced by a meditative garden and a quiet section decorated with Peter Pan, Jackson's favorite character. In May 2015, a new plan was announced. The ranch, now renamed again to Sycamore Valley Ranch, would be put up for sale. The starting price was a massive $100 million. Colony North Star, now in charge, had made major repairs and renovations to the estate. But fans weren't happy about the sale. Many believed the ranch should be preserved. Jermaine Jackson even wrote an open letter to protest against the decision. By May 2016, the 700-acre ranch was officially listed for sale through Sotheby's International Realty. It included the massive 6-bedroom mansion, a lake with a waterfall, a pool house, guest houses, a tennis court, and a movie theater with a stage. Even the train station and railway were still included, but there was a catch. According to Time magazine, the sellers didn't want the ranch turned into a Jackson museum. But no one seemed interested. In February 2017, the price dropped to $67 million. The estate stayed on the market for over a year. By February 2019, the asking price was down to just $31 million. The ranch was being maintained, but the sparkle was gone. Finally, in December 2020, billionaire Ronald Burkle, a friend of the Jackson family, bought the ranch. He paid $22 million and called it a land banking opportunity. That means he bought it to hold on to the land and wait for the right time to use it. But the story didn't end there. In 2024, a wildfire known as the Lake Fire came dangerously close. The entire ranch had to be evacuated. Once again, Neverland faced silence and uncertainty. The dream that once felt endless had changed. Just when the world thought Neverland was done making headlines, a new documentary brought the spotlight back in a way no one expected. Leaving Neverland, the documentary that shook the world. The idea for Leaving Neverland came from editors at Channel 4. Once director Dan Reed had enough footage to make it a 4-hour film, HBO joined the project. Reed felt it had to be long so that the full story could be understood. He didn't want to judge Jackson directly, and he avoided interviewing other people involved, saying they might complicate the message. In early 2017, Reed and his assistant flew to Hawaii to film Wade Robson. He agreed to tell his story from beginning to end, without skipping details. Though one of the cameras broke early on, they managed to continue filming into the night. A few days later, Reed traveled to Los Angeles to record James Safechuck's interview. That shoot also lasted 2 days. Reed said both men and their families were not paid to appear in the film. After recording their stories, Reed returned to London and started checking details to confirm what they said. But he still had one question. How did their mothers allow this to happen? So, in November 2017, he returned to the U.S. to interview their families. One of the most talked-about parts of the film, where Safechuck shows a wedding ring, was filmed later in July 2018. Although Reed had interviews with former detectives and lawyers from the earlier trials, he decided not to include them. He also couldn't reach Jordan Chandler, one of the earlier accusers, and guessed that he wanted to stay out of the spotlight. Reed said there could be a second film covering Chandler and Arvizo's stories. The music score was created by Chad Hobson, who said he imagined the film's tone as a walk through a magical forest that gets darker the deeper you go. Leaving Neverland premiered at the Sundance Film Festival on January 25, 2019. For TV, it was shown in 2 parts. In the US, it aired on HBO on March 3rd and 4. In the UK, it aired on Channel 4 on March 6th and 7. The UK version was edited down by 47 minutes to allow room for commercials. The documentary broke records. In the UK, 2.1 million people watched Part 1, and 1.9 million watched Part 2. After replays and online views, those numbers rose to 5 million and 4 million. In the US, the first part had 1.285 million viewers. making it the third most-watched HBO documentary of the decade at the time. Reviews, criticism, and the response. The documentary got strong critical reviews. On Rotten Tomatoes, it had a 98% approval rating. On Metacritic, it scored 85 out of 100, showing universal acclaim. Critics called it powerful, honest, and disturbing. Owen Gleiberman of Vanity Fair said the stories were overwhelmingly convincing. The Washington Post called it riveting. Salon said the film did more than tell their stories. It made viewers understand how people got caught up in the dream of Jackson. Some critics, like Entertainment Weekly, said the film was one-sided, but still called it unforgettable. Others admired how deeply the film showed the men's emotions and long-term struggles. Rolling Stone said the film chose a side by giving the men a platform, but that its thoroughness was hard to ignore. IndieWire said it wasn't flashy, but it was still important. The Chicago Sun-Times called it devastating and persuasive. The documentary won major awards, including an Emmy for Outstanding Documentary and a TCA award for journalism. But it also faced a wave of pushback. A reply film called Neverland Firsthand came out soon after. It featured Brandy Jackson, Michael's niece, who dated Robson for years and questioned his version of events. Other reply films like Chase the Truth and Square One also defended Jackson. Legal battles, music pulls, and the fallout. The film caused a huge media backlash against Michael Jackson. Some radio stations in Canada, New Zealand, and the Netherlands stopped playing his music. The Simpsons removed the episode where Jackson had voiced a character. Louis Vuitton pulled Jackson-themed items from their fashion line. Other changes followed. Museums removed his items. A gymnast changed her music. Even the Mannequin Piss statue in Belgium dropped plans to dress like Jackson. Still, many of Jackson's honors were not taken back. And surprisingly, his music sales went up. But behind the scenes, a major lawsuit was brewing. Just before the film aired, the Jackson estate wrote to HBO, calling the film unethical. They said HBO had broken a 1992 contract that banned them from speaking badly about Jackson. That contract was made when HBO aired Jackson's Dangerous Tour. The estate sued HBO, asking for $100 million in damages. HBO didn't back down. They argued the contract was no longer valid and that the estate was trying to silence the truth. They said honoring such a contract forever would let famous people control their legacy, even after death. The court ruled that HBO had to go through arbitration, not just fight in public. But HBO kept trying to stop the process. In December 2020, a panel of judges ruled against HBO again, allowing arbitration to move forward. Eventually, in October 2024, the case came to an end. Both parties dismissed the lawsuit, and as a result, HBO's platform Max removed the film. It was taken down with no plans to bring it back. But just as one chapter closed, another began. With the controversy fading, something unexpected happened. Cameras, crews, and Hollywood returned. Hollywood returns to Neverland. After many years of silence and mystery, Neverland Ranch is alive again. In June 2024, news broke that a major movie production had taken over the property. This wasn't just any film. It was a Michael Jackson biopic. The same Neverland Ranch that many believed would be forgotten was now being used to tell his story on the big screen. The ranch, located in the Santa Ynez Valley, was designed to feel like Disneyland, with rides, animals, and music. But after years of controversy and Michael's death in 2009, it was left behind. People thought it was finished for good. Now, for the first time in years, there is movement. Outbuildings have been cleaned up, rides are back, cameras are rolling, and the spotlight is once again on Neverland. This time, for a story that producers say will show the full truth behind the pop icon's life. As film producer Graham King said, "Behind the unrelenting scrutiny and the accusations and the blinding media spotlight, he was simply a man." But the journey to this comeback wasn't so simple. There was much more going on behind the scenes. Lights, camera, action at Neverland. A public records request confirmed what fans had been guessing for months. From April 15th to May 1st, film crews were allowed to shoot inside Neverland Ranch. They worked every day, from 6 a.m. to midnight. The permit listed scenes like dialogue, petting zoo, and stunts. There was even permission for helicopter filming. On Figueroa Mountain Road, filming took place in daylight from April 25th to April 28th. In total, 310 crew members were part of the shoot. The production used atmospheric smoke and other special effects to bring the story to life. By late April, photos and videos surfaced. Crews were on site. Extras were dressed up as balloon sellers, ride operators, and food stall vendors. The ranch, once abandoned, was filled with people again. Even before this, a sneak peek of the biopic was shown at CinemaCon. The film is titled Michael and is set to be released in 2025. Producer Graham King told viewers the movie would feature over 30 songs and cover every part of Jackson's life. That included both the joy and the pain. "It is a story worthy of a cinematic presentation," he said. Later, TMZ confirmed what fans had seen. Filming was fully underway, and Neverland was alive with energy. The big question now was, how much of the ranch had been rebuilt? And would it stay that way after the cameras stopped? The day Jackson fell in love with the land. Michael Jackson first discovered the ranch in 1983 during the shooting of his music video Say 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 with Paul McCartney. At the time, McCartney and his wife Linda were staying at the estate, then called Sycamore Valley Ranch. Jackson was so taken by the beauty of the place that he said he wanted to buy it one day. His sister, LaToya Jackson, later wrote in her book that Michael told her he'd return. And in 1988, he did. Jackson bought the property for $19.5 million and renamed it Neverland Ranch, after the fantasy island from the story of Peter Pan. Neverland became more than just a home. It was his dream world, a place for joy, escape, and childhood memories. He added an amusement park, zoo, and even a train. But years later, it also became the center of many scandals. In 2003, police raided the property during a live TV broadcast. Jackson was accused of serious crimes. Although he was later acquitted, he never returned to Neverland. That raid was the final moment he ever set foot there. The ranch stayed empty, and many believed it would be torn down, but that wasn't the end. After Michael Jackson passed away in 2009, people wondered what would happen to Neverland. At first, there were reports that his family planned to bury him there. Some hoped it could become a place like Elvis Presley's Graceland, but nothing was confirmed. In 2016, the ranch was put up for sale. The asking price was $100 million, but it didn't sell. Over the years, it stayed on and off the market. Then in 2020, billionaire Ron Burkle bought the ranch for just $22 million. He had once worked as Jackson's financial advisor. Burkle wanted to bring the place back to life. He told the Wall Street Journal, "It was kind of a depressing place. It wasn't the beautiful place that it was before. It just needed flowers and life in it again." He began fixing things. The roads were repaired. The train station, damaged by woodpeckers, was restored. He even brought back the petting zoo. Though Jackson's famous monkey Bubbles stayed at a sanctuary in Florida, new animals were introduced. Slowly, life returned to Neverland. But many of the 22 buildings on the land had fallen apart. There was a 12,000 square foot mansion, 3 guest houses, a movie theater, tennis courts, and a pool. It was a lot to restore. But with Burkle's money, the change was possible. A full-scale rebuild for the film. To make the movie as real as possible, many of the old features were rebuilt. Aerial photos showed rides being put back together. The Ferris wheel, carousel, circus tent, and the red train were all brought back. The idea was to recreate Neverland as it looked in its golden days. The film is directed by Antoine Fuqua and written by John Logan. Michael's nephew, Jafar Jackson, plays the role of his uncle. It's his first film role, but fans say he already has the same charm and talent. The movie will include many of Michael's most famous songs. That includes Man in the Mirror, Thriller, and even ABC by the Jackson 5. One scene shows Michael performing on American Bandstand. Actress Nia Long plays Katherine Jackson, Michael's mother. In one scene, she tells her son, "You have a very special light. Make that light shine onto the world." But she also warns him, there might be some people who think you're different, and that's going to make life a little harder for you. But you never were like anyone else. The movie is set to show every part of his life, which will be released on October 3rd, 2025. From his childhood in Gary, Indiana, to the peak of his fame and even the darker moments, Variety confirmed the film will address the abuse claims that followed Jackson throughout his later years. What comes next for Neverland? Now that filming is done, fans are asking, what's next? Will Neverland stay open to the public? Or will it go quiet again? Producer Graham King told Deadline, "For the first time, fans and generations of moviegoers will come together to get an inside look into the most prolific artist who ever lived." He said the filmmakers worked hard to find the story that hadn't been told before. Michael Jackson was an enigma, full of eccentricities and talent. He was simply a man who lived a very complicated life. With so many memories tied to Neverland, good and bad, no one knows for sure how the public will react. Will the film make people feel closer to Jackson again? Or will it open old wounds? What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more incredible stories from Hollywood's fascinating history. See you next time.